Hey guys, welcome to my channel. And today I'll be reading a horror story from our subreddit. So let's jump into it. When I was really young, maybe in second or third grade, something happened that stuck with me. My memory from that age is fuzzy, but this stands out for reasons that'll become clear. It was a school day, and it had been pouring rain all day. After picking me up from school, my parents left for some fancy event, a fundraiser, a dinner party. I'm not sure. They were supposed to come home that night, but the storm got worse, making it unsafe to drive far, so they decided to stay at a friend's place closer to the event. I remember them calling me on the house phone, apologizing over and over for leaving me alone. Even though I kept saying I was fine and not even hungry, my mom gave me a list of things to do before bed: lock all the doors and windows, keep a light on, close the blinds. Basic stuff. At the time, I didn't get why they were making such a big deal. I was too young to understand how serious it was to leave a kid my age home alone. Honestly, I was kind of excited to have the house to myself and limited candy, no bedtime. There was no TV in my room, so I stayed downstairs in the living room, watching shows on the couch. I figured I'd do my mom's tasks right before bed since I planned to stay up all night, but at some point, the sugar crash hit, and I fell asleep. I don't know what time I woke up, but the TV was in sleep mode, so it had been at least 3 hours. I felt much colder when I woke up, not unusual since it gets chilly at night, but it was noticeable enough for me to pick up on. Even as a kid, I thought about going back to sleep, but then I remembered my mom's list. I knew she'd find out if I didn't do it, and I didn't want to get in trouble after they trusted me to stay home alone. So, I dragged myself off the couch and started checking the doors and windows. I locked the front and back doors, closed the blinds, checked the windows, and left the light on. Everything was secure, but the house still felt way colder than it should have. I even touched a few windows to make sure they weren't open, but they were sealed tight. I figured maybe the storm had messed with the heater and didn't think much more of it. I went upstairs to my room, ready to crash. That's when I realized how intense the storm had gotten. My bedroom had a big window, and I could hear everything: the rain pounding the glass, lightning flashing, thunder booming every minute or so. I wasn't scared of storms, but I did worry a tree might fall on the house. That's probably why I couldn't fall back asleep, even though I was exhausted. As I lay there, I started hearing strange noises, creaking, like wood shifting. The whole floor was carpeted, so it couldn't have been from my room. I thought it might be a tree, but the sound didn't match. Then I noticed the closet door was slightly open. I was sure I'd closed it. Something had opened it. I didn't scream. I got out of bed as quietly as I could and hid under the dining table downstairs. After a while, I heard footsteps. Not normal ones, more like stumbling. Then I saw two muddy, cut-up feet stop near me. A wrench dropped beside me. The figure didn't move, didn't pick up the wrench. Finally, they walked away. I heard the door open and close. I stayed under the table for a long time. I didn't tell my parents until years later. I slept with a nightlight for years after that. Thanks for listening, guys. If you like this story, please consider subscribing. Well, that escalated quickly. So I'm an only child, living with my parents in a decent-sized house. When I was 15, on a rainy Saturday night in May, I couldn't sleep. I have medical conditions. I wore a rain jacket and left my phone behind because I didn't want to get it wet. No one in our neighborhood walks around in the rain without an umbrella or a raincoat. I turned, startled, but saw nothing. When I looked back, the person I had seen was sitting up staring at me. I was almost on top of him before realizing he wasn't moving. As I walked through the park next to our house, I saw something odd on the road, a long, black shape lying flat. At first I thought it was a trash bag, but the more I stared, I realized it was a person lying face down in the middle of the road. I don't know why I expected to see him there, but I did. But he wasn't there. I ran the rest of the way home, bursting through our front door and locking it behind me. I slid down the door, sobbing, until I heard my parents' worried voices. I get panic attacks. I faint sometimes and I have breathing issues. Why I was so scared and why I was soaked. I told them about the man in the road and they didn't believe me. They thought I was making it up. I was certain he wouldn't be seen again. I still have nightmares about that man and the terrifying scream in the park. I don't think it was his. I think he heard it, too. Whatever it was, it sent him over the edge, and rain actually keeps me awake, so I went for a walk to clear my head. My parents said I probably imagined the whole thing and certainly didn't see a dead body. They thought I had a nightmare and somehow wandered outside. It was around 1 a.m. Something told me to keep walking, but I got closer. The person was wearing soaked, dark clothes. It didn't look like storm gear. Just as I got within a few feet, a horrible animal-like scream echoed from somewhere in the park, before I could scream or react. He stood up. He was tall and muscular, grinning from ear to ear. He held what looked like a kitchen knife in his right hand. He took a step toward me and I ran. I slipped in the wet grass, sliding several feet. I didn't want him to know where I lived. I used a longer path that took me past the soccer field and around the pond in our neighborhood. I didn't dare run through the park where the road connected to our street. I didn't want him to see me, and I certainly didn't want to lead him to my house. I cut through the trees, ducked behind a large tree trunk, and waited, trying to make myself invisible. My heart pounded in my chest. My breathing became shallow and I could hear his heavy footsteps near me. I started to cry, terrified he would find me. Eventually, when I could finally breathe again, I got the courage to run home. As I neared the end of the path, I turned to see if he was following me. They asked what happened, and I was right. The police never found him, to this day. I don't know what I would have done if he had followed me home. My name is Anisha. I'm 29 now, and I've always found peace in solo camping. There's just something grounding about being alone in the wilderness, you know. A few months ago, so this past winter, I went through a nasty breakup. My ex, well, we just couldn't do long distance. And I needed to get away for a while. So I packed up my things and I headed out to a quiet, secluded spot by a river. It's not an official campsite, more of a place I discovered accidentally a few years back when I was driving around, looking for somewhere to go. You can only access it by a bumpy dirt road that's barely maintained, so not many people ever find it. It's perfect. So I got there a few days after my ex left. I pulled into the parking spot and the trucks were parked near the trail. Now, it's not like there's anywhere else to park. So I wasn't too surprised, but I was disappointed. This was supposed to be remote, my getaway, and now it seemed like I wouldn't have that solitude I craved. But I was already here, so I might as well just go for a walk along the river, maybe set up camp a bit deeper in the woods. As I walked, I passed two guys fishing. One of them quickly covered something with his jacket and he smiled and shouted, "Just shooting cans." Don't be alarmed, I just nodded and kept walking. So I found a nice secluded spot, set up my tent and settled in for the evening. As darkness fell, I saw one of the guys from earlier across the river. I waved and he yelled, "Hey, what's your name?" So I just made one up. Anisha. He then took something out of his coat, a disposable camera, and snapped a couple photos of me. First red flag. But I just thought, it's just a weirdo with a camera. I'm sure he'll leave me alone now, but later that night as I lay in my tent trying to sleep, I heard heavy steps circling around my camp. I instantly panicked. Was it a bear? I grabbed my pistol, a small flashlight, and I stepped out of the tent. And there he was, half hidden behind a tree, holding an axe. Adrenaline surged through me. I raised my weapon and I shouted, "Leave or I'll shoot." He didn't flinch. Ivan told me not to come here, but I had to handle it. Handle what? What was he going to do? I don't know. Maybe try to hurt me, but I wasn't taking any chances. I fired a shot into the air. He staggered back, clearly surprised. I took the opportunity to make him drop the axe and take off his shoes. I think at that point I was just in shock. All I could think about was getting away. So I packed up my things as fast as I could, soaked wet as I was, and I ran to my truck. Finally reaching safety, I called the police once I got cell service. They asked me a lot of questions. The officer on the phone sounded concerned, but they never did find the guy. And to be honest, I don't want to know what happened to him. What scares me most isn't what he tried to do, but what I think he would have done if I hadn't woken up. And it's who Ivan was. I think he wanted me dead.